Hey there, my name is LexC and thank you so much for joining me for the book review of Gary Vaynerchuk's 12 and a Half. This is leveraging the emotional ingredients necessary for business success. In this review, I'm going to give you a basic breakdown of how the book is structured, what it's about, some of the exercises it includes, and some of my favorite quotes and favorite parts from the book. So make sure you stay tuned.
How did you get done what nobody else has done? Nobody else has done.
I know.
It ain't too late to find the right one. Ain't too late.
I actually finished reading this book back on November 28th of 2024. And I know that because I started this habit of after I finish reading a book, I make note of when I finished reading it on the inside of it, because sometimes I do like those little free little libraries around the city. And so if I ever give the book away, I just think it would be really cute if the next person who read it signed their name and the date that they finished reading it. The next person who read it signed their name, and I just think it'd be a really cute thing. It's a really cute concept in my head. But anyway, I finished this book months ago. I had been procrastinating on getting the book review done because I just had a lot going on during the holidays with family health issues, and that's the reason why this review is taking so long, along with the next one that I'm going to be doing, which is the Guide to Going Viral by Brendan Kane. So make sure you stay tuned for that book review. But this book was actually a gift from my podcast boss. His name is Eric Geralt, and he does the podcast, the In and Out podcast, which I am one of the producers on. So y'all go check that out as well. But he gifted me and our videographer this book a few months ago, and it probably took me 2 or 3 months to actually get to it and finish reading it. No, it probably took me like 6 months to actually finish it, get to it and finish it. But this is 12 and a Half, the full title, 12 and a Half, Leveraging the Emotional Ingredients Necessary for Business by Gary Vaynerchuk. And I was first introduced to Gary Vaynerchuk years ago, probably 6, 7, 8 years ago on YouTube through his Vayner Media company. And the videos that I was watching from him, it was like these podcasts and these vlogs that he was doing, and he would just be giving advice to people who were tuned in. And the main message being, you might have to eat crap for a few years before you can enjoy the fruits of those labors, before anybody ever really gets to know who you are. And he would go on to say things like, I've done hundreds of wine library videos and was not getting any attention, was not getting any traction or traffic until maybe 200, 300 episodes in, but he stayed consistent. And I really love the message that Gary always preaches as far as doing the work, staying consistent, and the people will come. You will find your tribe eventually. And that's always stuck with me. He also has kind of like a tough love approach, just to give like a little breakdown of who Gary Vaynerchuk is. Very aggressive with the cursing, but he is also a very kind-hearted person, which you can really tell through the content that he puts out and just as much knowledge as he puts into his videos, which I actually started doing vlogs for a while because of him, documenting my journey as a music artist, getting to the superstardom stage. Kind of got away from it for a little bit, but I still do drop my content, as you can tell from things like these book reviews. But let's go ahead and get into the breakdown of this book. That was a quick little blurb on Gary Vaynerchuk. But again, the title, 12 and a Half, full title, Leveraging the Emotional Ingredients Necessary for Business Success. This book was copyrighted in 2021. Okay, there are 194 readable pages. Okay, 194. And the structure of this book is actually broken down: introduction, 3 parts, exercises. Yeah, let me read the notes actually. It's broken down into introduction, there are 3 parts, and a conclusion. Okay, so part 1 has 12 sections, which is outlining all of the 12 ingredients, which are also listed on the back of the book here, as well as the half. So we're going to be going through that. So that's part 1. Part 2 is real life scenarios and how to apply these different ingredients to those scenarios using one or a combination of some or all of the ingredients that we're introduced to. Part 3 different exercises that you can go through for yourself to figure out how you can employ the use of these ingredients. And then there is a conclusion to the book. And the purpose of this book, it's just what the subtitle says: leveraging the emotional ingredients necessary for business success. I think a lot of us, we think that to be successful in business, it's just about a bottom line, which maybe if you are the only one involved in your company. I am a one-person LLC, but I hire out contractors every now and again. There's no way that you're growing very far in business if you're not hiring people, if you're not collaborating, if you're not working with others. And inevitably, when you have multiple personalities coming together for the success of a business, it's not just about a bottom line. You have people that you are working with, and people have emotions. We have to remember how to treat one another. We have to have grace for one another and be kind and have gratitude, self-awareness, accountability, optimism, so on and so forth. We are going to get through all of the ingredients. So I think this book is very important because a lot of times with hustle culture, especially for me living in a city like Atlanta, oftentimes it feels like everybody is just so concerned with elevating themselves and doing what they got to do for themselves. Living in America, it's a very individualistic society, which means everybody is for self before everybody else. And it's just not the best way to run business because you forget about all of the people involved. And like I mentioned earlier, you forget that the people involved are people and they have emotions and they have feelings. And so this book is helping to navigate the lesser talked about side of business, which is more so like people management, right? So how does this book read? This book reads very nicely. The sections are very well plotted out. And each chapter and each section, they're not too long. So I really feel like I was getting through at a nice pace and I didn't feel like I was taking too long to get through any particular part of the book. Also, if you have ever listened to Gary Vaynerchuk speak on any of his keynote engagements, or if you've seen some of his YouTube videos, then the exact same way that he talks in those videos and at his keynotes, that's exactly what the text reads like. Anytime I was reading this book, I was just imagining Gary's voice, and that's exactly how he talks in real life, which I can appreciate because I don't like when books sound too robotic or too like AI wrote it or too crispy, too clean, you know what I mean? So I appreciate that about the book. It reads very naturally, very conversational. And if you've listened to Gary Vaynerchuk's interviews or you've listened to his content, his videos on YouTube, then you can just imagine exactly what he sounds like. Now let's get into an overview of all of the ingredients mentioned. I'm gonna hold up the book and list all of the 12 and a half ingredients. So we have gratitude, self-awareness, accountability, optimism, empathy, kindness, tenacity, curiosity, patience, conviction, humility, ambition, and the half is kind candor, okay? I wanna go to the page where he mentions kind candor, which is the introduction. Yes, it's the introduction. So let's see what he says about kind candor. Patience and ambition, gratitude and accountability, empathy and conviction. I balance a lot of these traits in mixtures. I've started to work on balancing my kindness with candor. I realized that kindness without candor was creating entitlement within my organization. By giving positive reinforcement again and again without critical feedback, I created delusion, which led to entitlement. I have a visceral reaction to confrontation, and so I was very bad at giving critical feedback for most of my career. After 24 years as a business operator, I'm heartbroken that there are people out there who don't feel great towards me because I wasn't able to be candid with them. I would fire them without giving them enough feedback, or I would create situations that forced them to quit. I didn't see the beauty of candor, the humanity in it. I didn't realize that candor actually is kindness. I can think of many times when some kind candor would have taken my success to a higher plane. All my unhappiness in life and business has resulted from my inability to deploy kind candor when necessary. That's why I'm calling it my half. I say half because nobody's a zero on anything. No matter how bad you think you are, the fact that you're even aware of a weakness or a gap has already started your process of becoming better at the underdeveloped skill. And that's as much as I'm going to read on that, but what a What an incredibly powerful message. No one is zero of anything. All of us have a little bit of something. We are aware of it or we're not aware of it, but the fact that we know it's there, it means we can work on it. So now, going through the rest of these, I'm just going to quickly read the definitions that Gary Vee provides at the start of each section, going through each of these 12 ingredients. There's gratitude, the quality of being thankful, readiness to show appreciation for and to return kindness. And I'm just going to actually read it off of my notes because flipping through the pages might take me a little too long, okay? There is self-awareness, which is conscious knowledge of one's own character, feelings, motives, and desires. There's accountability, the fact or condition of being accountable or responsibility. I decided to flip the pages after all. Optimism, hopefulness, and confidence about the future or the successful outcome of something. Empathy, the ability to understand and share the feelings of another. And like I said, these sections are not very big, so I'm actually flipping through them pretty quickly, right? There's kindness, the quality of being friendly, generous, and considerate. There's tenacity, the quality or fact of being very determined, determination. There's curiosity, a strong desire to know or learn something. There's patience, the capacity to accept or tolerate delay, trouble, or suffering without getting angry or upset. There's conviction, a firmly held belief or opinion. There is humility, a modest or low view of one's own importance or humbleness. There is ambition, a strong desire to do or achieve something, typically requiring determination and hard work. And those are the 12 ingredients. Now, skipping ahead a little bit. Oh, I could have had this closer the whole time. Crazy. Could have had this closer the whole time. So I was finishing this outline for this book review while I was at a coffee shop in the middle of the city of Atlanta, the heart of Atlanta, where all of the federal buildings and like legal buildings are, off Ted Turner and all of that stuff. And I was parking and there was a homeless man who was standing on the road. At first, I think he might have like peered into my car as I was parking, and it kind of just creeped me out a little bit. And I'll say he looked homeless. He appeared to be a homeless man. And I immediately started feeling anxiety. I immediately started feeling fear, like, yo, please do not talk to me, man. I just don't want to deal with you. I don't want to talk to you. I don't have any money for you. Please, I hope he leaves me alone. Lord, please let this man leave me alone. He kind of, as I'm parking, I'm shutting off my car. I'm paying for my parking through my phone app. He's like standing over here looking at me. He's peering over and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I have all this gear with me. I feel like, what if he's not a good guy? What if he tries to steal my stuff? What if he messes with my car? I'm like, all right, whatever. Let me just get out and go sit in this coffee shop until my meeting starts. So I go to the coffee shop. Guess who comes in? The same guy from the street. He comes in. Well, actually before that, it felt like he was staring at me through the window from across the street. So creeped me out even more. I go in, I order some tea, I sit down, get on my computer for a little bit. This guy walks into the coffee shop and he looks for a particular guy who works there. And he says to the guy like, hey, I found this card. Can you tell me if there's some money on it? And so with that, I'm like, okay, this guy is probably homeless because those are some things that homeless people do. And they say they will find cards or whatever else on the street and try to get money off of it, try to buy food with it, try to do whatever. This guy had gotten a cup of coffee and, you know, the clerk or the person working the cash register, he was very gracious and just gave the dude a free cup of coffee. I mean, and that really impressed me. And it kind of put me at ease a little bit the longer that this guy was in the coffee shop. And I had to check myself in that moment and say to myself, why are you judging this person? Why are you judging this man who you don't know? Why are you judging him so harshly? You don't know his situation. You don't know his background. You don't know what his state of mind is. He's just a person, just like anybody else. Don't assume what his situation is and don't allow yourself to be fearful just because of whatever narrative you're playing in your head, right? This is the inner monologue I'm having with myself and checking myself. So he sits down at the table next to me and I look at him, I say, good morning. He said, oh, good morning. Good morning to you back. And just in that small little interaction, that eased my anxiety and my fear so much, because it's like, okay, this guy, he's coherent. He's a regular guy. He's got manners. You know, anybody can be rude in Atlanta, but he's got manners. I feel better. I don't feel threatened anymore. I'm glad I changed my demeanor. I'm glad I changed my thinking about this guy. Sorry, that's my dryer. I did not know that was on. Ooh, that scared me. But I say all of that to say that I felt like in that moment, I was practicing one of the, or a few of these ingredients from the list of 12 that I just read off. You know, how we treat people is everything. And the stories that we make up about the people around us can affect how we treat them. So we have to be mindful, and we have to check ourselves to make sure that we're being fair, to make sure that we are keeping in mind that we don't know the full story oftentimes. And there are a few of these ingredients that I directly identify with. My favorite ones, I'm going to point out, let me see. Which ones did I put? Optimism, humility, and ambition. Well, actually, I made a list. I employed the use of self-awareness, accountability, optimism, empathy, kindness, patience, and humility. This is the combined use of ingredients that Gary Vee talks about in his book. And I'm happy that I actually got to use some of what I learned about from this book. So now I want to skip into the last part of this book, which is, where is it? It's coming up, I promise you. These are scenarios. I want to skip ahead to the exercises. So part 3 is the exercises. I'm not going to hold that up to the camera. But what I think is really amazing about this book is Gary does offer exercises for each of the ingredients. Not really any for kind candor. That's just something that we should just strive to have in every situation. Kindness and candor. Candor, just opening up to people and doing it with kindness. Whether the feedback you have is positive or negative, do it in a kind way. Because I heard also that the truth without compassion is cruel. So I think that's the same idea that Gary Vee has for his half ingredient, which is kind candor. Now, the 3 exercises that I identify with the most, or that I want to challenge myself to do: optimism, humility, and ambition. So the exercise for optimism is on page 181. Open your phone contacts and find the 5 people in your address book whom you deem the most optimistic. Text them and ask to set up a 15-minute conversation. Ask them why they're so optimistic. Ask them to use specific examples. I believe that the more you hear other humans talk about optimism, the more you can formulate your own context and understanding of it. I've honed many skills in my life by surrounding myself with people who are strong in those areas. P.S. This exercise could also lead to a conversation with somebody you haven't talked to in a while. That's always nice too. So that's the exercise for optimism. The next one that I want to challenge myself to do is humility on page 189. With this one, you're supposed to write something out. Let me just go ahead and show you. With this one, you're supposed to write something out. This one says, spend 5 minutes writing down every single thing you're not good at. Then cut out the page and hang it on your fridge. Frame it in your bedroom or put it next to your mirror. I want you to look at it every day. When you're done writing, take a picture of this page and share it on social media with #HumilityGaryV. And I'm not about to rip out this page, because if I did that, I would rip out the exercise for ambition right along with it. But that seems like a cool challenge to do. And then the third thing that I would challenge myself to do is the exercise for ambition, which is on page 190. I want to challenge you to record a selfie video talking about your biggest ambition in life. Post it on social media using the hashtag, that's kind of redundant, #AmbitionGaryV. In this exercise, I'm trying to make you accountable to your ambition by putting yourself in a vulnerable position where others can make fun of you if you don't achieve your ambition. You can work on not being mentally vulnerable to that judgment. Let me read that one more time. By putting yourself in a vulnerable position where others can make fun of you if you don't achieve your ambition, you can work on not being mentally vulnerable to that judgment. So by putting yourself out there, you're flexing that muscle. It's kind of like what they tell artists to develop tough skin when you're entering this music business, because it's going to be a lot of comments. It's going to be a lot of people with something to say. It's going to be a lot of haters. So that's how I equate this in my mind. Put yourself out there, get used to what it's going to be like to put something into the world and have it looked at, have it criticized, have it critiqued, and you'll be less and less affected by people's judgments and opinions because you're just putting it out there. And this is something that I also heavily relate to, because as a music artist, I've gotten into the groove of, let me put this out because I want to put it out, because I want to be consistent. So that's another one that I am going to be doing. And I realize that most of these challenges involve bringing in some kind of community or just one or two people who will serve as your accountability partner in a way. Part of being vulnerable is to let people in, which is something I have to work on for myself because I'm not the most open person. So I'm going to do some of these exercises, those 3 that I pointed out, and I would challenge you listening to this video, you watching along with me, I would challenge you to do those as well. Okay. Let me know if any of these ingredients sound interesting to you. And in the comment section, I can tell you what the exercise is for that. If you don't already have your own copy of this book, I'll come in clutch with you on that front. Okay. Now I want to read some memorable quotes from the book. Hopefully they spark something in you like they did for me. So we're going to go back to the beginning, back in time. Page 13. Where is it? Oh, I got the little thing in the corner. So let's see. Self-acceptance helps one embrace self-awareness, not avoid it. Self-acceptance helps one embrace self-awareness, not avoid it. We're going to skip ahead to page 58. Oops, I went too far. Don't you just love the sound of the pages turning? All right, we're almost there. 58. Okay. Hard work is not sustainable without love and passion. Hard work is not sustainable without love and passion. Now we're going to skip to page 66. Okay. You should do it for the journey, not the destination. You should do it for the journey, not the destination. I was considering reading like more of this section, but nah, I decided not to. He talks about his journey of wanting to buy the jets and how it might be a lifetime situation, but who he becomes during the journey of wanting to acquire the team is actually more important than the destination, than the end goal of acquiring them. So I've heard that story many times in his content videos. That's just something that he was saying. You should do it for the journey, not the destination, because you'll learn a lot about yourself along the way versus how much you'll learn when you get there. And then the last one that I want to get into is page 136. Come on, pages, you better turn. Now, page 136. I was actually trying to figure out, and I should have read this before I came on, but maybe, let's see. Let me read the scenario. So this section has different scenarios of how to employ these different ingredients. This one is scenario 21, follow-up question. What if your boss doesn't like your solution and says you need to figure it out for yourself? Okay, so let's assume the boss says we can't have one of your employees helping you with your calendar. My go-to ingredients would be patience and optimism. I can either come up with another idea or just get better at detail work. Maybe I decide I'm close to the good enough level and I want to try to improve. I could also be tenacious and get a job at another company if I decide that I have zero interest in becoming more detail-oriented. I'd be practically optimistic that I can find a job that either pays me more or pays less but has a work environment that's geared more to my strengths. For example, Maybe I could get a job as a car salesman and enjoy my life so much more because I wouldn't be spending 10 or 20% of my time doing what I hate and spending the other 80 or 90% feeling anxious about that 10 or 20. The funny thing is, going all in on my strengths would lead to higher performance and more happiness, which would ultimately yield more promotions and substantial raises. Now, I guess that might have been a part for me, because oftentimes I will suffer and struggle with parts that I don't like, knowing that, or convincing myself that maybe that's just a part of what it is to pursue this thing. Like, very much so with music as well, right? Like, I don't love going to the club. I don't love being in club environments with smoking and drinking. I don't like the smell of weed. I don't like being around loud, drunk people. And I don't like being up late. I like to get up early with the sun. I like to see sunlight. I don't like being locked away in a room all day. And you know, that me describing it right now sounds like a pretty big chunk of what I don't like. Like, it sounds like more than the joy of creating the music, writing and recording it, which I enjoy far more. But a lot of times I feel like I give more attention to the things I don't like. And like you said, it becomes the other 80 to 90% that you actually like doing, you feel anxious about the 10 to 20% that you hate doing. And so if we could hone in more on the things that we like, instead of worrying so much, which takes up a lot of mental space, instead of worrying so much about the things we don't like, then we would be happier for it. So do we employ someone to handle the 10 to 20% that we don't like? Or do we leave that profession and find something that's more conducive to what we want to play up to our strengths, or what we want to play into the things we love more? So I think that part really hits home for me, especially when it comes to reading. And that's all I got for y'all on the 12 and a half Leveraging the Emotional Ingredients Necessary for Business Success by Gary Vaynerchuk. Let me know what you think about my full book review. Does anything that I said, does it stick out to you? Does it resonate with you? Let me know in the comment section down below. Which ingredient do you think you need to work on the most? Work on the most of how to employ it in your day-to-day life. I would really love to know what that is for you in the comment section down below. For me, I have 3 of them. I have optimism, humility, and ambition. So I will be diving into those exercises and practicing those things a lot more, which falls into me falling back in love with music again, which that's another part of my journey. Neither here nor there. You can read more or listen more about that on my other channel at LexCATL, with all my music and my reaction videos and stuff like that, where you get more personality beyond the book reviews. But yeah, do you have any other book suggestions for me? Leave that in the comment section down below. I would highly recommend you read this book. It was a great read, and it is a quick read. So only 194 readable pages for you to get through. Take that into your consideration as well. But I want to thank you so much for joining me for this book review today. I do hope you enjoyed it, and I hope I inspire you to pick up a copy for yourself. But thank you so much for tuning in. My name is LexC. Until next time, peace.
In our own lane, doing our own thing, rocking. In my dry top with my bae in a chopper, yeah.